Next on Worcester News Tonight, an open meeting in Oxford after two serious accidents on Route 20, and the reason behind the trial of 4 Black Lives Matter protesters is delayed in Worcester. Good evening, thanks for joining us. I'm Tim McCone. We begin tonight in Oxford, where an open meeting was held to address a stretch of Route 20 that has seen numerous serious accidents in the past, including a fatal accident just last month that claimed the life of a mother and her child. Our Brittany Schaefer is in Oxford tonight and has more on tonight's meeting.
An informative night here in Oxford where dozens gathered at the Oxford High School to find out the latest information on the improvements on Route 20 and to voice their concerns on the dangerous stretch of road.
The tragedy that happened on Route 20 a few weeks ago, our heart goes out to them, and we want public input of how the impacts of our short-term solutions are going to impact those people living on Route 20. I just actually drove through that area and was kind of struck by some of the signage that's already been placed up there, the barriers in the middle for some of the work that's being done. So our hope is in general to make this a safer road.
Everyone is aware of the situation and agrees that we need to make this road much safer immediately.
The longer range plan, which is a major reconstruction of the road, we're looking to move up to. We don't really want to give it a time frame because we don't want to, be wrong on it. But we're expecting something to take place probably within, let's say, 5 years instead of the 10-year plan.
Initial safety improvements on Route 20 did begin today, but there's still plenty concern on how the safety of the road will turn out. One woman tonight saying she is worried about how the snow will impact the narrow road, among many other concerns. In Oxford, Brittany Schaefer, Worcester News Tonight.
Well, as Brittany just mentioned, construction on that dangerous stretch of Route 20 started today. Our Olivia Lemon has a closer look.
Monday marks day one of new construction to improve safety along this stretch of Route 20 in Oxford. The work follows 2 serious accidents, including one where a mother and her infant son were killed.
It's too bad these people are getting hurt. The population is getting more densely or coming around here more, and it's going to cause more problems.
It's a shame that people have to die before something's done about it.
Oxford residents are happy something is being done to this dangerous curve, but say it comes at a high cost.
That should have been done a long time ago. There's been a lot of accidents there.
We recognize that this corner is very dangerous, and again, because of the accident, emergency measures were able to be put into place.
State Representative Paul Frost says the original construction plan to fix the road was scheduled for 2025, but the fatal accident led to emergency provisions, including widening the road and adding a guardrail.
This will try to do its best to prevent head-ons and things of that nature, people crossing into the other lane of oncoming traffic, and hopefully will slow some people down.
Frost says the road will be widened by 10 feet. He says currently this part of Route 20 is not wide enough to install Jersey barriers to separate traffic. He hopes this will be part of the 2025 construction plan.
We own that 2025 is too long, but we're all trying to work together to find a way to get this project in its entirety expedited.
I want to see a nice divider go up in there.
Olivia Lemon, Worcester News Tonight.
A crash tonight in the center of Oxford. It happened around 8 o'clock. The crash involved 2 cars. An ambulance and police were on scene. No word yet on the condition of any of those involved. Well, police in North Brookfield are investigating a serious accident. It happened Monday morning on East Brookfield Road. Police say a victim was trapped inside a vehicle and had to be life flighted to the hospital. The extent of their injuries are not known. Police say 2 of their officers also had to put out a fire at the scene. Well, a tobacco control ordinance put in place in the city back in 2011 is set to get a makeover. Scheduled to go in front of the Worcester City Council tomorrow, the new ordinance involves multiple additions, including new regulations for e-cigarettes and banning smoking in public parks.
Eventually become a norm that it's not good to smoke in public places because it affects other people, just like it's no longer accepted in planes or no longer accepted in restaurants or certain situations. I think we're going to see that you can actually sit through a baseball game or through a soccer game or through whatever that may be, or in a playground without having to deal with secondhand smoke, which is definitely an issue.
The ordinance needs 6 votes at City Council tomorrow to pass. A federal judge has ruled Worcester's 2 panhandling ordinances are unconstitutional. Judge Timothy Hillman released his ruling Monday afternoon. The city ordinances were passed in 2013 and are aimed at controlling aggressive panhandling. The judge found both were unconstitutional, citing they restrict free speech. The city had argued they were public safety measures, but today's decision cited a recent Supreme Court ruling striking down similar ordinances elsewhere. Well, Fitbit, Apple Watch, they're extremely popular devices tracking your fitness goals. Well, now researchers in Massachusetts are using that same technology to track recovering drug addicts in the fight against opioids. Jeff Saperstone has more.
I'm blessed to be alive, to even have this interview.
Raymond Ortiz knows he's lucky to be here. He's overdosed on opioids 16 times. Clean for more than a year now, he works as a waiter in Worcester.
It's been a bumpy road because, now that I don't get high, but now I'm learning how to deal with my emotions, my anger, my way of thinking, the way I act, the way I talk, the way I treat people.
He stays clean by going to intensive therapy and monitoring his daily activities. His story is not unique in the Bay State. In 2014, just over 1,200 deaths were linked to opioids. Now there's a desperate attempt to curb the crisis.
It's a multifactorial problem, so there's not one good answer on why it's happening.
That's where researchers at UMass Medical School come in.
So this is what you would see as...
It may look like your average fitness tracker, but it's actually a new technology being tested at UMass. It's a bracelet that senses skin temperature, heart rate, and electrical activity at the skin's surface. The goal? Monitor recovering addicts to make sure they don't overdose.
Now that we know what that looks like, we can program the app to recognize these events.
When a person is using opioids like heroin or cocaine, it connects wirelessly to an app and computer, so a doctor can monitor the data to tell if a patient starts using again.
We sometimes feel powerless as physicians in the sense that we can treat an immediate problem, such as an opioid overdose. But we know that when we discharge patients and send them home, there's a high likelihood that they're going to use again.
Right now, the wrist sensor is still in clinical trials. Wearing it is not meant to be mandatory, but researchers are finding it does have a psychological effect.
A subset of patients have said they look at the bracelet and they think of jail, or they think of falling back down.
The ultimate goal, says Dr. Stephanie Carrero, is for physicians to be able to use that data to predict relapse events.
To help us.
Meantime, recovering addicts like Raymond could be a candidate for this device when it's made available to the public in a couple of years. He says anything that helps in the fight against opioids is a positive step. It gives him hope that others can recover just like he did.
It's a challenge, but it is doable and it's rewarding because there is a blessing at the end of it.
A crisis that is not going away. In Worcester, Massachusetts, Jeff Saperstone.
4 members of Worcester's Black Lives Matter movement will have to wait a little longer for their day in court. Their trial was supposed to begin today, but was delayed until next year. As our Patricia Nicholas reports, the members known as the Kelly Square 4 received some support at the courthouse today.
Hear that there's a distraction on a street or that people are inconvenienced being put up against the loss of lives. It's clear that to many of the people involved in this system, Black lives do not matter.
Black Lives Matter Worcester protests outside of Worcester District Court. They came to support 4 members who were cited in January for protesting in Kelly Square. Their trial was scheduled to begin Monday.
I think it's time we show support for Black Lives Matter, not only because it's an issue of racial justice, but it's also an issue of freedom in general.
Black Lives Matter Worcester blocked Kelly Square for 4.5 minutes on Martin Luther King Day. It was part of a nationwide call for action in response to the deaths of people of color at the hands of police. Julius Jones is one of the Kelly Square 4. He says they did nothing wrong.
We were very safe. It was very well planned out. We had people with roles. There were people who were watching for ambulances. In the video, you can see that an ambulance came down the road and we moved out of the way and then retook the street. It was safe, it was sound, it was awesome, it was beautiful. And this idea that somehow we threatened public safety in Kelly Square, I think is laughable on its face just because it's Kelly Square, but then it's also laughable because we were so intentional about it.
Jones and 3 other members are charged with disturbing the peace. They have been asking to have their case thrown out. Jones says City Manager Ed Augustus did agree to drop the charges, but only if the movement agreed to no longer protest in the streets.
Ed Augustus, City Manager, put a condition on the right to protest in Worcester. It's not just about the content of what we're saying that Black Lives Matter, because they do all day, every day, but it's also about our right to say it. And it's one of those situations where you may not agree with what I say, which I don't, we could talk about that, but you gotta agree with my right to say it, otherwise it threatens yourself too.
Patricia Nicholas, Worcester News Tonight.
Worcester police have arrested a man after he allegedly threatened a couple with a gun and knife. Officers responded to Chandler Street around 7 last night for a report of threats. According to the victims, a man identified as Kayvon Johnson threatened them with a gun and knife after they confronted him about vandalism to their car. They alleged Johnson punctured their tires. Johnson fled the scene and was later taken into custody on Castle Street. He's facing a number of charges, including assault with a dangerous weapon. Well, a new expansion breaks ground at Worcester's Main Street branch of the YMCA Monday. It's a major project whose goal is to keep young people off the streets. Our Andy Madison explains.
It's tough as a teacher to have knowledge about what our students' personal experiences are.
Sixth grade teacher Yashira Torres sees it a lot in the classroom.
If you have two unguided youths that are working together, chances are that they're not going to be doing anything productive or that's going to be impactful in a meaningful way.
The YMCA on Main Street wants to provide the guidance.
Maybe from Senator Chandler on down, we can come this way.
Monday, work began on several new facilities, including 2 different levels for a teen center.
We have not dedicated this amount of space to a teen center in a long, long time.
To give kids a place to go after school and keep them out of trouble.
That's key. That's the first, most important piece. What they do here and what they learn and take on in their lives is immeasurable.
Over the summer, the city experienced a rise in gang and youth-related violence. The YMCA's location is in the center of the city. The Y says staying close to where the kids need them most serve as a reason for the expansion.
We really feel very strongly, as our forefathers did, that this is the place for us. These are the neighborhoods that need us the most.
I think there's a stereotype about young people not having anything to offer, and I think it's really a matter of opening our ears and closing our mouths and listening to what they have to say.